Let me please introduce our panel of today. I'm very glad that a couple of German institutions joined hand with us for this session. So we have with us Jait Radol, manager in the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. She is currently in charge of the startups, and she's assisting also companies from various industries with market entry to Germany. She has actively working to foster the Indo-German economic relations and deepen the relationships between Indian and German startup ecosystem for years. And if you Google her name, you will find a lot of papers, articles out written by her. So Jaitra, welcome to our today's panel.
Thank you so much, Katya. And it's a great pleasure being part of the discussion today. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Our second panelist is Julian Zix. He's the project lead of the German Indian Startup Exchange Program. I think it's better known as GINSEP in the field. He is passionate about startups, entrepreneurship, and private sector development in emerging markets, with particular focus on India. Well versed in SME consulting and managing projects involving private and public stakeholders across borders, including ground level experience of 5 years in India. And I think that really helps in the field. And also 3 years of experience in the field of development cooperation through projects in Germany, South Asia, and the Sub-Saharan Africa. Has an academic background in European studies, and he has been to India. He's currently in India, as you see in the background. So Julian, welcome and greetings to Mumbai.
Thank you very much, Katja. I'm very happy to be here.
Last but not least, we have here with us Dr. Sumita Chute. She's the program director of the German Accelerator. She oversees the India Market Discovery Program and is building the German Accelerators network within the Indian startup ecosystem. She holds a master's degree in physics from IIT Mumbai. So we have a strong connect to Mumbai today, as one can say. She has been a part of the Startup Accelerator program at the University of California, Berkeley, and she has successfully completed her PhD in physics from the International Max Planck Research School for Science and Technology of Nanostructures in Germany. So also a very strong focus on Germany. So Sumita, greetings to Singapore and welcome to our panel today.
Thank you very much, Katya. Very, very happy to be here. I'm looking forward to the discussion, and thanks a lot for organizing this event. I think it's a very important one to also create awareness among different entities of who we are, what we do. So I'm looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Maybe we start with you, Sumita. Could you give us in 2 minutes an insight? What is the German Accelerator? And maybe if you would like to explain in a nutshell, maybe in 3 sentences, what you are focusing in the activities in connecting Germany and India on.
Sure. So German Accelerator is a big project fully funded by the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action. So BMWK, we call in short. And the mandate that we have is to support German startups, help scale to different international markets. So India is one of the markets that we support, and it's an important one. We run a market discovery program, which is like a 5 to 6 weeks long program where we help German startups gain first-hand market insights into the Indian ecosystem, what is the socio-cultural, political landscape of the country, help them meet with the right stakeholders, be it investors, end users, customers, legal help, and so on. And just one more sentence I'd like to add as a future outlook. There was a meeting between the head of states. So PM Modi visited Berlin in the beginning of May and met Chancellor Scholz. And there is an agreement that German Accelerator will introduce a market access program for the German startups going to India. So it would be a much deeper engagement running into, say, 3 to 5 months, where we will help the startups develop the go-to-market strategy and also execute it. So very, very excited.
Yeah, good to hear. We all have seen that in the news, so very excited to hear that. So maybe Julian, over to you. So as we have the accelerator, what is then GINSEP actually doing? Are you also bringing German startups to India, or what is your mission in the whole field?
Among other things, I must say. So GINSEP can be considered as a platform. And a platform is where you bring together, or where actually different entities, different organizations, let's keep it that general, are coming together. And it's important to understand that it works inbound and outbound. So from Germany to India, from India to Germany. We do not offer per se acceleration projects, but rather complementing activities. So we do a lot of promotion on opportunities from different organizations in Germany that are open for Indian entrepreneurs, open for Indian startups, and vice versa. So basically, the idea of GINSEP is to really bring together all the stakeholders that are out there, and then usually it concerns the field of market. So that is most of our work. So providing market access through our network. But then also, and through that we do lots of capacity building. So with workshops and help with pitches, also to reach out to corporates and investors, other investors as well. And the topic of talent is also something that is important. So basically trying to cater to this, let's say, this holistic approach. What do startups need in order to succeed? It's about market, it's about talent, it's about capital. So we try to also cover these three fields, and that then in the Indo-German context. Well, so it's basically a complementing project to the activities of the German Accelerator, and then also to the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce. And that's, I think, a good transition from here.
Yeah, that was a perfect transition. So maybe we finish our short tour de table. And Jaita, maybe you could shed a bit of light on the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, who's obviously in the field of commerce, as you're putting or carrying it in your name. So what is your focus, and what one I can achieve cooperating with you in the field of startup cooperation?
Thank you, Julian, for the transition to us. And as a Chamber of Commerce, we're responsible for promoting bilateral trade and investments between India and Germany. We started our journey in 1956, which means we are there now in the market for more than 67 years. And we support companies, so German companies on their way to India. In the last 1 decade, we have helped more than 250 German companies, bigger companies, smaller companies, to establish a footprint in India, and vice versa, helping Indian companies with their market entry in Germany. So our USP lies, or say, we play an important role in connecting the old economy with the new economy, which means the traditional companies that have been there in the market, helping them to connect with the new age companies. So companies who are looking for collaborating with startups, companies who are looking for new technologies, and vice versa, offering the startups a good B2B connect through our network, and then thereby helping them to scale organically or to help them gain an access to both the markets. So our role basically is also as an ecosystem enabler to interconnect various stakeholders within the Indo-German ecosystem. So startup ecosystem is one part of it, but also going beyond the traditional companies and the traditional sectors as well.
Yeah, so you have a bit of a broader outlook, looking
Yes.
at technology transfer and yeah. To complete the tour de table, maybe 2 words on the DWIH. What we are looking is into connecting science-based startups, and we are not reaching out directly to startups. So we are more on the level on cooperating with incubators in India and Germany, which are placed in universities and non-university research facilities. And I think that leads us to the next question. So let us look at the stage of a startup. So Sumida, in your case, when I'm a German startup and I want to the German accelerator in the Indian market, do I need to have my company in place? So at which stage you support the startups? Maybe you could go a bit into detail into that.
Sure. So when we are looking at the stage of the startup, in principle, we say we cater to all stages of startup. But ideally, we would want, or we would prefer that the startup has the right focus of internationalization, which means if they already have an established sales in Germany and a business model set up, that they can focus better on the internationalization. Having said that, we also have experienced or have had a few startups who have developed or who have been developing products specifically for the Indian market. So they are a little early stage. They are just in the stage of doing an MVP, doing a pilot. But since the product is for the Indian market, it makes sense to also support these endeavors to test and quickly validate and get the feedback from the Indian customers. Then we also have another profile of startups, which are, say, series, I don't know, A, B, or C, pretty mature, But for those startups, what we have seen that India is more of a destination as one of the things to expand. So they are already present in many countries, and India is one of the nth country they want to expand to. So we have seen the whole gamut, but really the growth stage startups, I would say, is where we find the majority of our startups participating.
Thanks. So a bit of advanced product in place or product development for India, and then strictly focused on Germans or international startups accessing India. No, that's what we could conclude. Julian, how is it looking for you if we would look up at the stage of the startup? So the support you offer, is it the same direction, or is it deep tech, or yeah? So what is would be your approach on this?
Well, our job, our mandate is to support any startup that reaches out to us that is interested. So as a platform, we are completely open, right? So we do not have a selection criteria. Well, the selection criteria is that it has to fit into the Indo-German corridor and it has to be a startup, right? Of course, even there you have some different definitions, but let's not get into that. Let's say we have startups that approached us and needed support from, let's say, 100 employees, and also startups that are single founder that just want to establish their business. And I think one really has to, one of the learnings of the last 4 years, since the program is running, good 4 years, is that that actually no startup is the same. So every situation is completely individual. So we have quite some cases where you have an individual Indian, let's say an Indian entrepreneur that has some connect to Germany and is in Germany, and even before he has his business in India, he directly incorporates it in Germany because he has some connection for some reason with maybe with his education beforehand, or maybe due to other reasons where he worked with a company before, or where he's still working and side by side he's doing this, or he's meeting a German co-founder and together. So everything is happening. One has to see that it's a much more dynamic, let's say, field, instead of this, let's say, the traditional Chetra mentioned the old economy, the case of a company going to the other country, doing some indirect investment to build their factory or building up the company. That is rarely the case what we're working with. So it's really much more the smaller ones that start with a small team, maybe just incorporate or work through partners first. So the startup to startup collaboration or startup to corporate collaboration, that is much more common in our activities, or what we come across, rather than this traditional way of setting up a business and investing and building a team of 10, 20, 30, 50 people. So that is rarely the case.
And you work in both directions. No? We've learned from the Accelerator that it's more Germany to India. So for you, it's both directions.
Exactly.
With this broader approach, yeah, just to
exactly. And in that way, the startups reach out to us, and some of them we provide some information, and then they also have to do their homework and see, okay, I need to look into this, to look into that. So it's more of this step-by-step, a small approach, and not an accelerator where you have a particular program where you really handhold them. So we are more of this open platform like this. So that's why we also basically, let's say, are the first point of contact for startups. And we have more than 1,200 startups that were part of our events over the last 4 years. So that's why the numbers are also higher, but it's a more of a first point of contact, and then they do their own homework, and then they come back and we connect them further. So in small steps towards doing business in the other market.
Okay, good. We come, I think, in a minute back to funding and where I find funds, because that's always a question, of course. But maybe, Chaitra, before we go to this, Julian mentioned startup to corporate cooperation. Would that be the focus of the chamber, or how could you help me as an Indian startup, for instance? If I reach out to you, what could you me offer? What would be the focus of the chamber, as we try to learn here a bit to find the right person to contact?
Yes, exactly. So that's one of our focus areas, where we help the startups to get connected with the corporates, or vice versa, fostering this corporate startup collaboration. So we are also sector agnostic. We cater to all sectors, and we also work in both the directions. So if a German startup is reaching out to us and needs support, so we, as the first step, we help them with the market information. We help them to assess the market opportunity. And then, based on the findings, we help them to establish a value proposition, or then help them to get connected with the corporates or with the respective business partners that would be there in the markets. So making these connections is one of the very important solutions or say services that we offer, and it works with connections.
Or you send them then to the German Accelerator, say there is an excellent program where you can upscale your
Yes.
market. Now, as we are well interconnected, I would like to highlight this over here.
Yes.
Maybe
Actually,
to add on
if I
this,
could-
yeah, Sumita.
Sorry, if I could add, so we are very consistently leveraging the network of Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, and I'm closely working with Chetra on every cohort to do the partner matching and have access to their mentor network. So it's like you said, very, very intertwined work that we do. Sorry. Please go ahead, Katja.
Thanks. Yeah, maybe to add that, so if one would look into technology cooperation being placed in a university, then there would be also the help of the German Center for Research Innovation with that a strong focus. But that leads us to a question. So maybe the next question would be: is there a focus on specific sectors? We've learned in the intergovernmental consultations that there is a huge focus on AI at the moment in the Indo-German cooperation. But we've seen a couple of areas where both of the ecosystems are quite strong, but then India is looking into other things than into Germany. So is there, from your end, a focus on specific sectors? That would be my first question. And related to that, the second would be, see you a certain trends, certain areas which are more demand is on for your programs and for your support. And maybe Julian, you kick it off this time.
In general, we are sector agnostic and we work really demand oriented. So that means if we see that there's a high demand from a particular group of startups from in a particular sector, then we offer or try to offer events or activities on them. So also, of course, sometimes also trial and error. And some of the sectors are more common. Let's say what we definitely see, well, AI, of course, which is rather technology than a sector, but field of AI, definitely health. So AI in health, or let's move AI as a technology aside, as a sector would be definitely health, digital health. It's big in India and in Germany. So there's quite some collaboration. Industrial IoT, or in the entire industrial industry 4.0 or industrial digitization, however you want to call it. So let's say digital solution to digitize the industry. So there you see, and I see particularly lots of potential and lots of happening, because you have brilliant solutions from India, digital solutions. And the let's say the old economy in Germany, the Mittelstand, and many corporates there, they are still lacking the digital. They need some support in the digital transformation as well. So that is something where we see also lots of activity happening. Then mobility, and then we are already at this kind of the green topic, right? Green and impact. So we see also more and more that this topic is very important to startups, and they are being more and more active in that field. So of course, if you say green, then it has to do with mobility. That is again intertwined with, of course, logistics, but then also social enterprises, a lot of environmental, so impact related, social and environmentally impact related startups. So these are definitely big trends that we are seeing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe try to something to add from you. And I know that the chambers are open to everybody, so this I think is out of a question. But maybe related to the second, are you doing market access programs focusing on certain fields, or how does it look like for you?
Yes, so as Julian has mentioned, we also have same focus areas, or more or less like we can draw similarities there. So our focus is on agri-tech. Our team in Pune is running now a program together with GIZ and also with the Federal Ministry of Economics. So with them, 3 to 4 year program where we are helping, we're trying to support the stakeholders in the agriculture industry in India and in Germany as well to an extent, in order to improve the efficiency and productivity. So this program is called as post-harvest losses. So how to minimize the losses in the supply chain completely. So agri-tech definitely is a focus. Then other big focus for us is Industry 4.0, because perhaps like we are more connected to the traditional sector. So we receive a lot of interest from companies who are already there in India, so German companies, and they want to look for new technologies relating to Industry 4.0. And having said that, looking at the broader picture, so the trade between India and Germany has witnessed a 24% increase this year. In the sense in 2021, from Jan to December 2021, and it's currently around 26 billion euros. So we had seen a little dip before because of the impact of COVID, but the trade is at an all-time high, even compared to the pre-COVID levels. So one of the major items of import-export, the trade item is machinery here, which means that Industry 4.0 is very, very important for us, and we have a lot of requests in this area. So as healthcare, we have been having some delegations from Germany, including a bunch of startups from the health tech sector in Germany, who were looking for connects in the Indian market. So health tech, and as Julian was mentioning, digital healthcare is one of the key topics as well. And we do also have a team separately for sustainability for the topic of clean tech. So we periodically, every quarter, we have like delegations coming from Germany into India who are into sustainability, solar, renewables, wind power, and they're looking, the companies are looking either for collaborations with companies or even for startups in India for that matter. So we're more active in these areas or in these verticals.
Yeah, thanks so much for that insight. Now, Sumita, we know that's always a bit tricky to get Germans into India. Now you had your first or second cohort already. What you have seen? What was the fields, the startups? Which startups were interested in India and to participate in your program?
Yes, so we have had in the last 2 years since the inception of the program, 34 startups who explored and discovered the India market, and like Julian and Chaitra said, we are sector agnostic, but there are, what we are seeing, some sectors more than the others from where the startups are, say, more keen to explore the India market. So fintech would be one sector. We had one startup who was providing supply chain financing for the SMEs and exporters in India who are exporting to Europe. Then for industrial automation, one startup providing some AI solution to improve the quality and the performance of the machines for laser cutting. That we have seen startups in clean tech, in enterprise tech. So HR tech is also one of the very, say, hot sectors. Health tech, including travel. So it's probably not that intuitive, but also in this COVID period, there were startups who were in the travel tech sector and have found actually good traction and found partners during the program. So the field is vast and very, very exciting.
Yeah, that's good to see that there is a vast field and not just a focus on a specific field. So we can, and there are a couple of questions, whom to contact. So we can conclude that all 4 of us are sector agnostic. We are not focusing on specific sectors. It would be the matter India, Germany to India for Sumita. There was a question from a CEO from a university business incubator to connect. Please feel free out to reach to the panelists. Julian would be a good point of contact, the DWIH in that case. And there was also a question on sustainable food and condiments. So I think all of us, as we are sector agnostic, please feel free to touch base with us. We will paste in a minute the links to the institutions where you can also find, of course, the contacts of the people here. I would like to mention that we actually have a 5th German player in the game and the startup cooperation, which is the GINSEP. who is looking after social entrepreneurship projects on a really local level. They support a lot of social entrepreneurship projects in India, so they're looking more after this field. So it's a bit of a capacity development. So they could not join, unfortunately, today, but I would like to highlight that there is also a focus on the work within India on this sector, and this is mainly taken over by the GIZ. So I highlighted already that we should discuss a bit about financing and funding, because that's always a question which arises. Of course, in international cooperation, flight tickets have to be paid, stays have to be paid, but also maybe one has to have a patent lawyer one has to pay. So maybe Sumida, is your program for free for the German startups, or is there, or is this just the program you offer, and then the hospitality, the flights, and everything else has to be covered? So how is the program structured cost-wise?
Yeah, so the program, most of the program costs are covered by BMWK, by the German government. We still charge a nominal fee of 500 euros for the German startups. So that is something that they pay. So far, the program has been virtual, but post-COVID, we plan to also do a hybrid event where the startups will be able to travel and experience the Indian market on the ground. And for that, the travel cost would be borne by the startups, but the rest of the program cost absorbed by us at German Accelerator. But yeah, so via us, but by the government.
Very good. So one sees the strong interest the German government has in to also
Yes.
fostering that. So Julian, if an Indian stakeholder startup reaches out to you or asks for advice for networking, does he has to pay for that, or is that free of cost?
All our events are free of costs. We do have certain small events, or when we promote other stakeholders' initiatives or activities, then of course we refer to them free of cost, and sometimes they would have to pay. So, for example, well, Sumida just mentioned how they're working, and we're also promoting their activities, of course, and then they'll be charged. But also due to the reason that they dig much deeper into the individual support, right? So as a platform, we are first point of contact, and we can connect again and again and connect them with different people. But we do not do this longer hand-holding. We have some other activities where we are also charging, but that is, for example, we're organizing currently investor tour like a physical delegation for Indian investors to Germany. So there we are charging, or people have to at least pay their expenses and all. So there are individual cases where that are chargeable, but in a general note, everything is free that we're offering to startups.
Could the startup reach out to you, say, I have a partner, I need financial support?
Many startups do. And there are many startups also say like, oh, Julian, can you help me? We need some funds from Germany. And well, in practice, it's that, of course, we have investors in our network, but in reality, it is that this is not how it works. An Indian startup that is going to Germany for fundraising, I don't know a single case of a success story of this, unless you are in Germany already. And then one has to understand that even then, it is unfortunately at this point more difficult for foreign startup founders to raise funds, because the Germans feel that, okay, they are well connected to the outside world, and maybe they are not so, let's say, loyal to the German or the German speaking market. So this is what the studies, what the research shows. There was the Startup Migrant Founder Monitor that was recently, like 2-3 weeks ago, was published by my colleagues at the Startups Association. And that shows that for foreign founders, it's extremely difficult to raise funds. So my suggestion always, or my recommendation to them is it's much easier to raise funds in India itself than thinking of Germany. Even bigger German startups go outside of Germany to raise funds elsewhere. So that is a topic that I would say funds are not really the strength of let's say VCs are not really the strength of Germany, but there are many other mechanisms, many regional programs, and of course countrywide programs like the Exist program that are there to be looked at for startups. But I was talking about private funding from VCs or angels.
Yeah, maybe I can add on this. Not a current study in Germany has shown that 60% of the VC capital in Germany is from the US, actually. So there's no proper German VC funding. And then if one look at the Indian system, we have 52%. NASCOM report just came out last week, said 52% Indian VC capital, and the rest is coming from abroad. So the VC funding situation seems to be a bit better in India. So I think it's a good hint to fundraise in India and then take the funds and maybe spend them in Germany for accelerating. Chaitala is working for the chamber, who is kind of a company. So how is about you, the wonderful architect program you mentioned, for instance? When I would like to participate in that, I find it interesting. Do I have to pay for it? Would you subsidize? So how does it look for the chamber?
So if we have companies who are part of the delegations, which are funded by the ministry, it's the same like the accelerator. They have to pay for the travel costs, but they do not have to pay for all the support that we would provide to them on the ground. So everything is covered by us in terms of helping them to get the right partner match, in terms of meetings, market information. So the local support comes to them complimentary. And in other cases, if companies reach out to us separately, so there we have a bundle of services, and we are membership driven. So the first thing is the companies have to sign up for membership. And having said that, we also have a separate category of membership for startups, and the fees are much lower, or they're kind of nominal in India. So that then startups can enroll and they receive the first information, the consultations for free of cost. And everything then that goes beyond, say, if the scope is in depth, that's where we have service fees for various services. So depending on which service might be applicable, we kind of try to come up with a package. But the consultations or the market information or assessing the opportunity is something we offer to them as part of the membership package itself, or even helping them to get some initial connects is something that is already included in the membership package itself.
And you get access to a large business network, no? As
yes,
chamber
yes.
is the largest chamber, international chamber of commerce worldwide, I have to say, with India. So huge access to a whole business network through the membership. Yeah.
Just to add, so we have 5,000 members, 4,000 members in India, and plus 1,000 companies in Germany. So apart from the consultations, the information, the initial connects that we provide, members also have an access to our webinars, to our magazine, to all the updates that are happening in the Indian economy, in the German economy, and plus events like AGM or the Oktoberfest cultural events. So we are also now, things are picking up. So we will be shortly having many of our events going offline after 2 years. Hence, the opportunities are there this year for companies to network in person as well.
Yeah, I would like to add from our side, so one cannot directly reach out to us, as we, as mentioned, work with the incubators and we route programs through these. So there is, of course, we can connect people to, but as I said, the fundings from our side directly for startups are not available. We've discussed a lot, and we've seen a couple of ministries of funding, financing startup, Indo-German startup cooperation. Now, why Germany has such a huge interest and why Indians and German startups should cooperate? Isn't that more competition? And if you look at market shares and so on, so maybe Sumida, you go first, and then we could add on this. Sumida, you unmute. You have to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. That was an important tip. No, so what I was saying is that the accelerators and incubators, by design, they understand the local markets very well, and they offer expert advice, right network of investors, customers, and other partners. And even big companies have recognized the potential of working with startups, so be it innovation or attracting new talents. They have their own incubation programs. Now why these two countries, right? India and Germany, and they both have their own salient features. Now, if I talk about the Indian startup ecosystem, it has over 60,000 startups with more than 350 incubators and accelerators. You just mentioned, Katya, at the beginning of your talk that India just became home to 100 unicorns with a valuation of about, I think, $340 billion US. And although, so we reached that target much earlier. I think the projection was to reach 100 unicorns by 2025, but given the pandemic and the use of digital services and products, I think that projection was accelerated. And to add to this, the macroeconomic factors of India being the largest consumer internet market in the world with over 624 million internet users, consumer spending stands at $1.5 trillion and is expected to be around $6 trillion by 2030. So it's an exciting market for companies and businesses to be in. And one of the ways to do that as a soft landing is to cooperate with the incubators and accelerators who have the right, say, arsenals for these startups to access this highly vibrant market. I would leave it to Julian also to comment on the German part for Indian startups who want to explore there.
I think in general, we see that considering the ecosystems and the markets, then I feel that there is not enough happening at this point, right? So I feel that why is the focus not strong on India? This is definitely also, without going too much into it, with some geopolitical or some other uncertainties that, but to me, who is since years focusing on India, I wished Germany and the EU would focus much stronger on the EU on India, but we see clearly that this topic of startup has come up. So this brings a completely different angle to it, because of course in the 90s and 2000s, then you had already this and outsourcing to India. You had this outsourcing and IT, getting things done and programmed in India. So this had been there, and experiences were many times not that good for different reasons. So I'm not pointing my fingers at India here, for different reasons. And now the potential is on another level that slowly, the North Americans have understood it very clearly already, but slowly the Germans and the Europeans also understand that, you have not only great minds, but also great ideas and solutions coming from India. So and more are looking at these great minds. They're coming by applications. Everyone who's working in an HR department in Germany knows that many applications are coming from India. The people that are at university see that more and more Indian students are there coming from India. And then, of course, these students are hopefully staying back and also are entrepreneurs or founders in future. So I see there's lots of things happening. There should be even more happening, but the potential there of the market, but also of the entrepreneurship-driven mindset in India is really huge, which goes much beyond that market to just see India as a market. So I just hope that it's being more understood in Germany as well, because the challenge a little bit in Germany is that usually the German market is also big, so you focus on the DACH, on the German-speaking region. That is what we see, and also what the reports say, that this is what startups look at. And I always feel like, India might be still of this, blank, this blind spot on the map that they don't see and don't know too much about. And whatever you don't know too much about, I don't know, for some reason you ignore it, right? So they don't take it up. So, and this is something we really need to change. And maybe this entire geopolitical scenario that we have right now, that we are facing, maybe this will even help us to focus more and on a closer cooperation to India. I think the joint statement that we saw on this cooperation on many different topics will help us already, is a good sign already. But what we need is, of course, now also actions on the ground. And I really believe this helps a lot to focus on research cooperation, startups cooperation, startup to corporate cooperation in all these fields. So we have big challenges that we have together, from energy to health and so on. So I think that is really a good decision now. So we just need to have some actions and some activities happening on the ground.
Thank you so much. You mentioned research cooperation. There's one question in the chat who is asking if the DWIH supports fellowship programs to help scientific researchers to collaborate. No, we don't, but please turn to a lot of funding institutions like the DAT or the German Research Foundation. There's a lot of programs available, so please turn to these colleagues. Julian, I have a question for you from the chat. Now, we're talking a lot about the German engagements towards India, no? And here we are sitting 4 or 5 German institutions being funded by the German government to connect internationally. Is there a similar program for Indian startups interested to cooperate with German startups financed by the Indian government?
At this point, there's not as such. At this point, the funding is coming from Germany, and we have some individual support. So with GINSEP, for example, we on the one hand on central level, but we work a lot, and we have a number of MOUs signed with different regions in India. And if not MOUs, then very close collaborations or MOUs in the pipeline. So and that works really well. And the same with Germany, for example. Another player, just a very good example. A few days ago, we've reached one of the regions in Germany, Mannheim. It's a city in southern Germany, southwestern Germany, and they are not really on the radar for international startups, but they have a great startup initiative called Next Mannheim, and they're really committed and have really great local regional corporate connects. And they reached out to us, said like, well, we also organize something for inbound startups from abroad. Like a delegation as well, or a kind of accelerator program as well. They want to try it out for international startups. And can you promote it? So for us, it's of course, that's our job. We want to promote it and hope that we get many Indian startups connected with them, and that they are selecting Indian startups to be part of their cohort. So things are happening on the ground, but after all, they are at this point not funded from the Indian side.
Okay, thanks. Thanks so much for that insight. So let's see if there's something upcoming, as India has a strong interest in the whole field. And this session, of course, focuses by its nature on the German support. Trita, what would you say, what is the benefit of cooperating with a German startup for an Indian startup? We've just heard from Sumita, the market is large in India, access, there's a lot of things to do to upscale, there's a lot of technology available. So what would be, for an Indian startup, the opportunity and the benefit to cooperate with a German company or a German startup?
Yeah, so as mentioned by Sumedha, given the scale, the size, and the dynamics, India is a large market for many startups across the world, including German startups. But like through our experience, when companies reach out to us, they feel that the market is a little difficult to tap into. So they need assistance, and they're not able to independently approach the market. That's where startup ecosystem enablers like incubators, accelerators, VCs, or even entrepreneurship development organizations like TIE have a huge role to play in interconnecting the ecosystem. So if a German founder and an Indian founder are able to come together, for example, this could be done by the way of establishing a buddy system, wherein the founders meet, they come together, and then they could share their insights, they could share market information, they could share their experiences from the journey they've had so far and learn from each other. Other benefits could be like winning and retaining talent, or then coming together and creating new products and revenue streams, or then even scaling up organically. So like from our experience, having interacted with startups, this is what, like when the founders meet together, they're looking at more at an exchange of learning from each other.
Yeah, thanks to that. I got an interesting question, I think a very practical one. Now let's see if we can sort it out here in our round. So there is an urban mobility solution provider currently in the pilot phase, supported by Exist. For those Indian participants, Exist is a support scheme by the German government for high-tech startups, and they would like to produce in India and export the products worldwide. How they can get support and mentorship in Department of Supply Chain and Market Access? Can we help them in our round, Sumita or Julian?
I think yes. So if they are a legal German entity registered in Germany, and we could definitely support them with network access. We have had a few startups or companies. So there are a few models, right? So this program that we have from German Accelerator is funded by the German government, but there's also a very clear definition of what a startup is how do you define a startup? So if the company is above in terms of the revenues or number of people, we can always engage on a separate model. But in principle, it should be possible to also connect them with the right stakeholders here in India, as long as they're a German entity.
Okay, good. I think Julian, you could also hold a helping hand in that case, no?
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is a very typical case where we'd say, okay, great. What do you exactly need? What are you looking at? Why India? Have you decided why India, and possibly also where in India? And why where in India? So about the different regions, right? So Germany and India are both a very decentrally organized markets or countries. And then we would provide access to what is needed, provide access to the market, to the individual stakeholders, and then see if that helps. And then we get one step further, and then hopefully support until everything is up and running.
So good to hear that we have this support in place. There's a question if there are prospects for social entrepreneurship. Are there any support initiatives for promoting social entrepreneurship? Maybe we start with Chaitra, and then Julian, Sumita, you could add on this.
Well, I mean, for us, this is not of much of a topic, unfortunately. So, like we do not. I mean, we do try to support founders, but then this is something we are not proactively engaged in.
Okay, so this is not your focus. So, Sumita, I think would be social entrepreneurship a topic for you?
Actually, not so much. So I would have to somehow also second with what Chaitra said, has not been in focus per se for us.
But as Julian is the large platform, is connecting everybody to everybody, what about you? So don't disappoint me now.
No, social enterprise prizes, absolutely. We have been part for the last 3 years of Tata Social Enterprise Challenge in India by IIM Kolkata. So that is for German startups. So we always had 2 or 3 German startups participating there. Of course, it was online in the past, but now it's offline, and the first 2 rounds were also offline. So I was there, and that was really good. Then, well, it also depends on the definitions, right? You have impact startups, you have social enterprise, you have green startups. So how do you get them all together, right? So in my understanding of social enterprise is something that has a positive impact on society, on social groups, on communities, or on the environment. And there, for example, we are part of the Green Tech Festival in Berlin that will take place in end of June this year. And that is also a great opportunity for Indian startups if they're interested to attend it in person. So we do cater to these fields as well, but usually on a regional level with individual activities.
But maybe add to this, we as DWIH are running the Falling Walls Lab India each year, and their social entrepreneurship is a part. So it's open for early stage major, but also social entrepreneurship, but also for researchers. We are looking for breakthrough ideas, and there definitely we had also a couple of winners over the last year in that field. And then there is a possibility to participate in Innovation Week in Germany or in the Falling Walls Lab in Germany. So definitely, if you're interested in that topic, there is a good way once a year to present your ideas, and then maybe if you're selected as one of the winners to get access to Germany. So this is certainly one part of it. And I mentioned earlier, and maybe my colleagues in the back end could also post the German Development Agency GIZ, who's doing a lot of support on ground level with German money. Is lesser looking into international cooperation here, I have to say, but there's a lot of support available for capacity development, for small social entrepreneurship activities. So maybe the colleagues could post the contact dates of our colleagues from the German Development Agency if one looks into developing this field within India with a bit of German financial support. So I think our audience sees there's a lot of things available. I think it's very good that we're running this session today to sort out a bit of ideas as internationalization of entrepreneurship has different different parts. There's not just always market access. We've learned about research cooperation and so on. So I think there's a lot of things to take care of. Before we close, maybe my last question would go to the three of you. Now we have talked about these wonderful opportunities and how we support the scheme. Why it is that we are still, and Julian mentioned it, there should be more done. Where might be the barriers? What is a difficulty in this whole cooperation? And maybe every one of you could answer that in 2 sentences from your perspective. What is the difficulty and how we could overcome this if we could say you have a wish free in that direction, be it to the German government or to whoever. So Chata, maybe you go first. So what is a difficulty and what is your wish to overcome this?
So again, from our experience, the difficulty that we see or why many startups fail who are going cross-border or international is because of intercultural barriers. So at times there are intercultural barriers, the mindsets differ, the goals differ. So we need to sensitize the startups or different stakeholders when they're going cross-border a bit about the work culture, the country, the people, so that they understand why are certain things being done in a way that they are being done there, and it helps them to have more empathy towards the other person. So I think one of the biggest barriers here is intercultural barriers, apart from, say, some challenges that we would have at the governmental level as well.
So here I would like to just continue with, I agree fully that sensitivity and understanding of the cross-cultural fabric of both the countries, how they differ, how they are similar, it's very important. Another thing, so to the point that what Julian said, that it is important that there is awareness about India as a market among the German startups and in Germany. So creating awareness, I think it's one of the tasks. I don't believe that India is not an exciting market. With all the discussion we have had, it has only pointed to the other direction, that it is an exciting market. But more often than not, America or Japan seems to be the it place for German startups, a very natural place for startups to explore. So I think creating awareness about India is one of the things, and therefore also can be said as a barrier. But once the startups, they come to India, I think apart from the cultural understanding, there's also the need to understand that the regulations and policies can vary from state to state in India. So even the neighboring states can have a vastly different regulation. Let's say, take the example of alcohol, right? In the state of Maharashtra, it's legal. You can drink and sell, but if you cross the borders towards Gujarat, it is illegal. And this is just a single example of where the product, whose legality, pricing, distribution, it all depends on the regulations of each state, and this results in certain complexity of the market access. So that's, I would say, is one of the barriers.
Yeah, thanks so much. So maybe Julian, from your long-standing experience in the field, and then maybe also a look into the future.
Yeah, so actually the most, indeed, what Chetra said is the most underrated or underrated aspect is the intercultural aspect. This is completely underestimated because people think like, well, after all, yeah, this is how it goes, and people think the obvious ones, of course, the regulations and all that matters absolutely. In Germany, well, a big challenge is GDPR. You can also see the GDPR, so the data protection in the EU. You can also see it as an advantage as well. But so these things are obvious, but the intercultural ones definitely really important, and not just about doing business, but also the things that go in hand with it, about building trust. How do you negotiate? So the communication, how does it work? How do you follow up, or do you call people incessantly, right? So in India, it's common. In Germany, don't do this. It's considered pushy. You know, these are just very, very basic ones. But over and above, I would say that also goes hand in hand is one thing is that developing a network is extremely important. And this is something one can do from home already, and not overnight, but starting over days, over weeks, over months, and even years. You start by developing a network, do your research about the individual regions, so really understand the market, so really understand which region within Germany is the best And why Germany in the first place? You know, that should be also very important. Then which region or which are the players, which are the regions that are relevant, which are maybe the corporates or which are the competitors. So really get an in-depth understanding of the market is extremely important. And that will help you in order to identify or narrow down the regions, narrow down maybe the players, and narrow down maybe also the approach. Because if you have a network established, you can get feedback from the business promotion the agencies, from other startups, from corporates, maybe even at events where you say like, well, I'm an impact startup and I'm at the Green Tech Festival that I mentioned. That will help you to get an understanding, how's the scene, what's the environment like. And then with that network, you know who to ask and how to tackle things. You get a much better sense. Of course, it doesn't. Rome wasn't built in one day, so this is the same thing. It really takes lots of time, because the cultures are so different, and that completely applies to both directions. I think usually the Germans think India is so complicated, but for Indians, Germany is really a toughie. It's really a toughie there.
Thank you so much. I would add on this, finding a trustful partner, I think, is one of the barriers, as the system in India especially is so huge, but also Germany is not such a small country. I think finding a trustful partner is one of the barriers. And my wish would be, as India is so underrated in Germany, that we get more money to push all these things forward, so that we can cope better with all the demands we are getting from the Indian side, and that we would have even better support mechanisms in place as India is on the race, also Germany in the field, and to interconnect the two systems together. So thanks so much for this wonderful session. What we've learned today. So we've learned there's a lot of support, there's a lot of information out there. We've learned that the German Accelerator is looking for German startups into India, could help. There is a lot of market access, and there are exciting new programs upcoming. There's also financial support for market access available. We've learned that GINSEP is a large network, so if I'm maybe not pretty clear what I would like to do, if I'm still a bit undecided, or if I would look for something very specific, maybe Julian would be a good point of contact, as he has this large stakeholder network, and then he can guide you through, not just in the direction Germany towards India, but also India towards Germany. We've learned from the chamber they have a large corporate network. If one looks and access to this corporate network, which they have in the back, and if one would connect to the old economy, maybe that would be a good place to connect. There are also programs available, and we learned for the DWIH that we are looking more into science-based startups and incubators, and to connect over there. So I think that helped. I hope that really helped our audience to sort ourselves a bit. I think in the chat there are the websites of the different institutions here today present. Feel free to reach out to the speakers to get more and detailed information. Let me highlight that we as DWIH have a couple of events upcoming which might be interesting. I have seen in the audience a couple of German participants. We will in the next 2 weeks have a session which we had to cancel off yesterday due to circumstances, on the deep tech startup system in India, together with NASCOM, where we have a look into deep tech startups into India, and what is their the offer, and to understand the system a bit better. We mentioned already Falling Walls. The call is on, so if there are startups in the audience, scientists, have a look at the website. We have the call open till the 10th of June, and then the Falling Walls Lab will take place in September. I know that Julian is traveling on events. There's a fair you're participating tomorrow. Is that right?
Yeah, medical fair in Delhi. Sorry, in Bombay. Yeah.
So you can meet him tomorrow in Bombay and look up the GINSEP website. And Sumita, I think you're gonna run the call for the market access program.
Correct. The market discovery program starting July.
Starting July, so there is also a call up there. Rachel, from your side, something you would like to highlight?
So like not immediately, but we do also have a lot of webinars and even offline events. So more details are put up on our website. Okay,
good, great. And the last but not least thing I really would like to highlight that we are looking forward in hosting 10 entrepreneurs from Germany at IIT Campo and C-Camp this year, to team them up to overcome the intercultural difficulties, which we just talked about. They will work on problem solutions, so we are taking that forward to connect better. So thanks so much for the wonderful session. Thanks to the audience for the questions. I saw they're interconnected, what was really nice to see. So I hope that was useful. I wish you all a nice day. Take care and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.